Speaking of internet censorship, what a great segue. Mark Carney, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. As you know, Justin Trudeau's government was one of the most censorious on the face of the earth outside of China and North Korea and a couple of fringe places with the Online Streaming Act, the Online News Act, the Online Harms Bill. Luckily, when the Parliament was prorogued, the Online Harms Bill died. But it is a zombie, and it will be back because Mark Carney is promising to crack down on digital free speech. And of course, he's blaming his favorite enemy, Donald Trump, for allowing a sea of misogyny and conspiracy theories to just sweep into Canada. This guy is so anti-American. It's like his entire identity is boring, but anti-American to like in the most vicious possible way. But anyway, let's listen to this.
We need to do it because.
Come on. You know what? One of the things that is it's interesting. I earlier today, I'll get back to Trump and trade and everything, because we can't avoid it. But earlier today, we announced a series of measures on crime, and we announced a series of measures with respect to online harm and other factors. And one of the observations we had, one of the issues we're dealing with, there's many serious issues that we're dealing with respect to crimes of violence, conjugal violence, drugs, fentanyl, others. But one of them is with respect to really just the sea of misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, conspiracy theories, this sort of pollution that's online that washes over our virtual borders from the United States. And that's a mild version of that. That's fine. I can take the conspiracy theory and all that. But the more serious things is when it affects how people behave in our society. When Canadians are threatened going to their community centers or their places of worship or their schools, or God forbid, when it affects our children. So my government, if we are elected, will be taking action on those American giants that come across.
So he wants to make talking about conspiracy theories with your friends online a criminal offense. I like how he points to the Americans as the problem with the rise of anti-Semitism in Canada. It's not. It's the Liberals. It's progressive cities. It is our universities. It is the Liberals' friends. It's the Liberals' base that is spreading and proliferating anti-Semitism. And it's not online. It's in real life on our streets and in our universities. Do something about that. I don't care about the online LARPers spreading anti-Semitic memes. Whatever. I'm more concerned about the tangible violence and calls to genocide happening on the streets of Canada's major cities, and the Liberals are like this about it. They don't want to see it because that's their base. Do something about that. Enforce the existing laws. Don't shut up people online.
That's key right there. We already have laws in place to keep rule and order in these types of things. One thing that stood out to me is that he included misogyny in how they're going to crack down on crime. Like, what does that look like? So, and what exactly is misogyny these days? And he's talking about this concern for places of worship. I'm sorry, are you not aware of the church burning sprees that have been taking place when you, of all people, should know based on your father's research? that is sparked based on inflammatory statements. But you're right, he is anti-Trump and anti-America because that's the best tool they have to try to win this election, right? Keep making it a war against America to go with these things and completely ignore all the things, all the actual literal crimes that have been emboldened by a lack of cracking down from the Liberal government and provincial governments as well. I mean, out here in Vancouver, we've had crazy things happen. We had a literal anti-Israel protester try to gouge out a female Vancouver Police Department officer's eyeball. Like that's nuts. Who even goes for that? And you want to talk about misogyny? How about that? Is that misogynistic enough for you? We've had, of course, we've had like the firebomb kind of thing thrown at the synagogue out here. We had the anti-Canadian movements right alongside with the anti-Israel movements as they're ripping apart Canadian flags and chanting death to the United States, death to Canada, and death, of course, to Israel. So now all of a sudden when someone, I believe what the heckler was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is tell us the story about the children on it. It sounded like he said, tell us the story about the children on the island. That's what I heard. Let me know in the comments. Good time to give us a chat if you heard something else. But that's another thing. Note he wants to crack down on censorship when that's what's asked of him. He's not refuting that those pictures are real. He's not saying that that's doctored or anything. He's just saying, oh yeah, we're going to censor discussions like that. And I think that's the real core of what he's saying. That's how we're going to take care of people like you asking questions that should be asked by every journalist, but of course is not being asked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the anti-Semitism phone call, by the way, Mark Carney, that's coming from inside the House. You don't want to talk about anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. How about we have an arms embargo against Israel? We don't. How about there's a genocide happening in Gaza? There isn't. How about those anti-Semitic tropes? How about the anti-Semitic trope spread by our Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, when she repeated Hamas propaganda that Israel had bombed a hospital when it was a misfired Hezbollah rocket, if I recall correctly. So how about those? You know, how dare you go around telling people what's real and what isn't, what's a conspiracy and what isn't, what's anti-Semitism and what isn't, when you guys are the biggest BS peddlers on the internet, and the mainstream media, who are bought and paid for by the Liberals, just barf it out into the atmosphere, thinking Canadians are dumb enough to buy it. And based on the polls, maybe some of them are.
Oh, Lord help us.
Exactly.
Those polls.
I know. And we'll get to what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about Carney's remarks. But Carney says that he's going to make it a criminal offense to intentionally and willfully obstruct access to any place of worship, school, or community center. I've got my thoughts on this. Why I think that phone call is also coming from inside the House. But let's hear what Carney has to say.
Unfortunately, the rising tide of hatred online is overflowing onto our streets. Violence and intimidation have no place in Canada. Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia must be denounced in the strongest possible terms. And I am appalled by the horrific incidents and numerous incidents in our country in recent years.
What are they?
I go to church myself, and I've reflected on stories like what has happened with the Temple Sinai Synagogue, what they've had to face right here in the GTA. Its signage has been repeatedly set on fire. Its congregants now have to pass through metal security bollards before they can even enter. And its leaders have had to set up active shooter drills to prepare for the worst. I've heard this advocacy directly from the community, including from last month's National Anti-Semitism Forum. There are also far too many violent Islamophobic attacks on mosques and other places of worship and community centers across this city and across this country. And I'll be clear. If any Canadian can be threatened when simply exercising a fundamental freedom, then all of our freedoms as Canadians are at risk. And my government refuses to allow Canadians to feel threatened when visiting their place of worship, when sending their kids to school, when going to a community center. And that's why we will make it a criminal offense to intentionally and willfully obstruct access to any place of worship, to any school, any community center. And we will make it a criminal offense to intimidate or threaten those attending services at these locations.
Well, if you remember, during lockdowns, we again already have a law like that. It was a section 173. I used to know it off by heart, but it is already unlawful to go ahead and interrupt any religious service. But that certainly went out of the window under the Liberal government, didn't it? During COVID, when you would have scenes of news reporters filming license plates at Christian places of worship and completely ignoring the gatherings that were taking places in industrial buildings for Muslims. They never said anything about that. So that's another example. And I shouldn't say I hate to go back to the churches, but can we just point out he is only talking about two types of hate against religious groups. And you yourself, Sheila, you did that great report that helped expose that under the Liberal government, since I think it was 2016, there has been about 460 churches that have been attacked, mostly by arson, correct? So why are we not throwing Christophobia and these concerns about cracking down, about protecting places of worship? Under the Liberal government, it's the Christians who are attacked most for their beliefs.
I forget the number, and I should remember, but I think it's hate crimes against Catholics have gone up like 150%. But nobody talks about it because it is fomented by the government. It's, by the way, it's section 176 of the Criminal Code, addresses offenses related to disturbing worship and certain meetings. So it goes beyond just places of worship. It can be, 260%. I'm sorry. I rounded way down. It's just exploding. And this is attacks on our churches, because Justin Trudeau said he could understand why it was happening to us instead of being appalled and revolted at the crimes against us. But he's a Catholic, just like Mark Carney, and not at all like me. This is another, like, Mark Carney makes an announcement about something that's already in the criminal code. He did the same thing with firearms yesterday too. But again, the phone calls coming from inside the House. This is the government that closed our churches and oversaw federally the incarceration of our pastors. Now, provincial governments are responsible too, but nobody said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be locking those people up. They encouraged our churches to stay home to stay safe, because we're all in this together, and we hear the exact same language. Again, stay home to stay safe from the Americans. Yeah, and the RCMP was the biggest enforcers of that in where I live. At least the local, municipality police they didn't entertain it. Once Mark Carney is going to be shocked to find out that there's section 176 in the criminal code.
We are so proud to offer our weekday, daily, unscripted live stream where you can tune in, stay informed, and even engage directly with us. We have a rotating set of Rebel News journalists that join, and it's just a fun way to get to know us a little bit better and hear our unfiltered, off-the-cuff commentary. But this doesn't run on thin air. It takes resources, time, and, of course, effort. That's why we're calling on you to support us. It's very simple. You just visit rebelnews.com/rebel roundup and help us not only by watching, but by sharing that link with all of your friends. And hey, maybe even consider chipping in a small donation to help fuel our independent journalism and keep Rebel News alive. Every dollar counts, and every contribution keeps us going. Visit rebelnews.com/rebel patreon.com/rebel roundup to learn more. Thanks so much for your support.